everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. I'm so glad to be back with you here, getting up a little late here on Thursday evening. Yeah, we have so much news to jump into. I will just jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you to those who have joined to support monthly. I'm so appreciative of you. You keep the channel happening. And we're going to just jump right in here with the news. Of course, we're dealing with this SIGNALGATE situation, and I'm going to drill down here in this video on Katherine Maher, however they're saying her name, however she says her name, and how her past is so intensely connected with SIGNALGATE, her present, all of it as a huge regime change agent. And I've, when I did my last video, hopefully you've watched it. If not, go back and watch it. But basically, I kind of zeroed in on her as a board member on Signal, who had the connections with the World Economic Forum, Young Global Leader. She had the whole situation being part of the Atlantic Council. She, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, all of it. But that was the tip of the iceberg. I woke up the next morning and then I saw, Marjorie Taylor Greene just grilling her, and Jim Jordan and the rest of them, Tim Burchett, as her role as CEO of NPR. And that is amazing because her history is enormous. It ties into SIGNALGATE because she's not only a board member, she's chairman of the board. And it's so interesting when I put in, researching today, AI is saying now that she was the former CEO of NPR and president. Has she resigned? I don't know. I haven't heard that yet. But basically, again, the timing here is what I want to talk about. The timing of how the Trump team is rolling all of these things out and exposing these players. And Katherine Maher is a huge player in all of this to do with SIGNALGATE, what is going down with their attacks on Hegseth, Gabbard, Waltz kind of being the weak link in my view, but also there was a setup that went down here connecting, I know you've probably heard by now, Alex Wong, in his staff as deputy national security member, that there's a lot going on here with his wife Chu, her relation to the Clinton Global Initiative, connections with working for HRC, but it goes way, way, way beyond this. And so the Signal backdoor, and I think this is, as much as they're going to play this out in the courts, what's coming down here with Signal and the White House saying we're going to start a massive investigation here, and also now have announced that they put Elon Musk in charge of his team, his tech team, going in to investigate everything to do with Signal. Okay, and this is huge because we already know when the CEO of Telegram was arrested last fall, and because he wouldn't let the NSA and the FBI backdoor Telegram to get in there, to be able to get into the private chats on Telegram, and he got rolled up for that. And basically, that's because they already had Signal. Okay, and Katherine Maher, CEO and president of NPR, who was grilled out the wazoo yesterday by Congress at the DOJ committee, chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who ripped her a new one. Everything about her goes way back, Katherine Maher. And so we're going to dig into that here in this video. So I put on the glasses and we jump in. So there's so much here. Just starting off, I'll just announce, Katherine Maher, she grew up in Connecticut, very kind of all white, very affluent area of Connecticut. And she, her father is a prestigious, I think he might have passed away, but prestigious Wall Street firm guy. Her grandfather was said to be a European spy of some sort. And her mom is Cece Maher, and she is a state senator in Connecticut. And so Katherine Maher being a CEO of NPR, CEO formerly of Wikimedia, managing Wikipedia during all of the assault on, the color revolution here that's been going on during the Biden regime, and her role in regime change that has been part of her career for the entire time. I believe she was born in 1983. And so we're going to dig in here into her and what her history is and why it's so important to understand that as chairman of the board of Signal, in her role, which looks very, very hugely CIA connected, is that she has been part of how Signal was then, of course, brought into the Biden White House, used as the telecoms system, and that why I believe there is a larger situation of, we already saw, with Caroline Leavitt yesterday announcing with Mark Warner or Mike Warner, who was attacking, of course, Tulsi Gabbard and attacking Ratcliffe in the hearings during the Senate committee hearings on global threats, where basically they were just so drilling into them about their use of Signal. And basically what Caroline Leavitt had to say was, oh, well, Warner was the one using Signal to basically work with Perkins Coie and Fusion GPS to get the Steele dossier in motion for what became, of course, Russiagate and, of course, Trump's release of Crossfire Hurricane. There's a sequence of events that the Trump team is rolling out, right down to then having these NPR and PBS congressional hearings under Doge happen at the same time. And the focus here is on Katherine Maher, and she's the pivotal point person here in these regime change operations that has been working throughout the Biden regime and now in the Stay Behind network, where Signal is the Stay Behind network. Okay, it was their information control system where probably every single thing has been being observed over Signal. And I think they're using Walt as kind of the easiest target here. Maybe it's a different thing where they already set it up, but with Wong and his wife Chu, connected with Hillary Clinton and all of it, maybe they were able to use it that way, or maybe they've been in charge of it the whole time here. Okay, because the only criminal here involved in the Signal chats is, of course, Jeffrey Goldberg, who put them out for public consumption, and that is a crime. That is a national security leak that he did by publishing them in the in the public space on the Atlantic. But let's dig into Katherine Maher. So Katherine Maher, she basically went to NYU. She got her Middle East and Islamic Studies degree there, and she then went to Cairo and Damascus, as I talked about in my last video, where she got subsequent degrees, and she then worked for UNICEF. Okay, and during her work with UNICEF out of the UN, and again, UNICEF, this is UN money, USAID money. She ends up traveling to every city that had to do with the color revolutions that were going on at the time. And so she ends up being in Tunisia, she ends up being in Syria and Libya, Turkey, literally, as these color revolutions are going on there. We came, we saw, we conquered Hillary Clinton. She was in all of these cities, okay, while she was working for UNICEF. And that's a pretty big deal. So she was very much involved in all the color revolution kickoffs in North Africa. And this was, of course, all the regime change things that were happening under Barack Obama and with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. And so when we look at her, we go on to find, so she went on from UNICEF then to working with, yeah, we have so much to talk about. Okay, then we go on to in 2011, she ends up working with the National Democratic Institute. Okay, that is basically the CIA in USAID out of the State Department. And so not only that, she ends up being on a State Department advisory board there, but basically in 2011, this was, being run by Samantha Power, so much involved in all the regime change, the color revolutions, and she's there working at the National Democratic Institute, and she basically same kind of thing. She's involved in all of this. We have the CCP coming out, at the time saying the National Democratic Institute is the second CIA, and we already know this. It's already been uncovered, and that's why President Trump defunded USAID and defunded specifically also the National Democratic Institute out of it. That was the regime change money cash cow, where they used putting people in positions in the media across the world, and it had everything to do with social media, had everything to do with taking over the radio stations, the media, and then of course the lawyers and all of that. But it's very interesting because Katherine Maher ends up in the middle of all of it over and over, and right down to things like Benghazi. We have in Libya, she was at the National Democratic Institute working in Benghazi, okay, in Libya. And she said basically that the Middle East, the National Democratic Institute team internet wires were basically being, they were trying to make sure that they could make sure that they were working, that they were, functional during everything with to do with Benghazi. And so, and she specifically talked about Twitter. And you look at everybody on the Signal team, they all came out of Twitter, including her stints with Twitter. And basically, she was accused of working for the CIA by the Tunisian government, where they basically were the, transitional government. Who there was one cabinet minister there, Slim Amamour, who said that Katherine Maher is a regime change agent. She works with the CIA. And so we go on in 2010, and I want to reference an article about this, but I will. It's linked below. It's Christopher Rufo out of the City Journal. He really dug down into her past. He was able to get into a blog that she had way back in 2010 that's since been deleted, and where Katherine Maher was saying that seizing the radio could be a way of controlling a country. Just think of NPR, right? And everything that came out so wonderfully through these hearings, where she had to come out and basically disavow literally everything that she has said. Trump is a racist, fascist, all of this stuff. They've got her. They've got her. And what's amazing is she also said in her blog, and just think, George Soros purchased all those hundreds of radio stations, and you have Mayer saying seizing the radio can be a way of controlling a country. And she said this during all the North African color revolutions that were going on, that she was involved with, basically working with National Democratic Institute and just, out of the UN, UNICEF, all of it. And then basically she then says in her blog, control over the flow of information in a closed society can be tantamount to control over the state, right? And so look at her history. She goes from UNICEF to the National Democratic Institute, CIA out of USAID. Then she goes to Wikimedia, running Wikipedia during all of the George Floyd time, all of the color revolution times in America, and what was meant to be the takeover. And of course, initially it was Hillary was coming in and super connected to the Clinton Global Initiative, all of it. And so we go from there to, Signal. of course, was originally funded by Open Technology Fund. And this, the U.S., they just say, oh, it's funded by the U.S. government. It's Open Technology Fund. She sits on the advisory board of Open Technology Fund, Maher, okay, Katherine Maher. This is IARPA, the Information Advanced Research Projects Agency. USAID, same thing. Open Technology Fund, Katherine Maher sits on the advisory council. Okay, and so they are, the Open Technologies Fund is used in all of these, what was the USAID money going across the world, everywhere, Brazil, just everywhere. Okay, definitely Ukraine, everything to do with the stands, all of the color revolutions that they have done have been using this Open Technology Fund to create their media. And so basically we get, that's why Carrie Lake is fighting so hard with, taking down Voice of America, but also the globalist, the global council that she's taking down there as well, to strip it down to its basics, basically, and to hopefully rebuild it. It's very interesting. You look at Wikipedia in the last few days, and it's looking like it's telling the truth. So interesting what's going on there behind the scenes. There's this huge take back and take over of the media, of the internet, and fight back, because we are in a giant war. This is a war. It's not only an information war, but the information war is so important because it tells us that we are, what's being able to get out there is what's winning. And this channel is super shadow banned, so I don't know, but I want to get this information out there. But Signal was, of course, created to provide encrypted comms initially. The initial creation by Moxie, whatever his face, Daniel Rosenfeld, okay, the anarchist, it was initially created, and I've been trying to dig in the funding. It's really hard to get in the funding of Signal because it's a nonprofit. And so it's very hard to find all those donations. We know Jack Dorsey gives $1 million a year. They supposedly only have a $50 million budget for this nonprofit Signal. That, of course, Biden, the auto pen, that Blinken, et cetera, and Blinken very, very tied in here, that, they put Signal in as a way to have the back door into this, be the stay behind network to follow all the communications. So when they put Jeffrey Goldberg onto the Signal chat, who knows when they popped him on, or if they ever popped him on, if he was even there, okay? Because they could have just fed him all of those communications without him even being there, all right? Because he is one of their players. He is, as I've said before, coming out of the same people, the Atlantic, everybody out of the Atlantic Council, all of it. They're all, Katherine Maher definitely is a central player here as chairman of the board of Signal and chairman of the board, well, excuse me, CEO of NPR, and president. And so all of this is super connected. She is obviously a central player here, who I believe probably at some point they would have tried to roll her out in a bigger role, maybe even into the government, maybe even to the presidency, maybe even into a larger role. And so it's very interesting as we look at all of this and we look at her climbing these ranks. There was one other thing that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, that she was also the head of. She was on another board that's really important. She, I mean, I've talked about so much about her, but she also worked for the World Bank. She's out of the World Economic Forum. She's and her husband, of course, is very interesting too, because he seems to be, hugely Canadian. Okay, but he also is a Muslim Indian, and very interesting there. The U.S. Department of State's. Okay, so the U.S. State Department, when Hillary Clinton was running it, she created what was the Foreign Affairs Policy Board. Okay, the Foreign Affairs Policy Board. And that's very interesting because the Foreign Affairs Policy Board is um, is the thing that that Katherine Maher is on that board. She is on the board of the Foreign Affairs Policy Board under Blinken. So that was created by HRC, and we see all of her connections having to do with Hillary Clinton, and then we see the situation of course, the wife of Alex Wong, who is the understaffer of Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor, his wife Chu, having so much to do with Hillary Clinton and Clinton Global Initiative, and all of that. So this is a stay behind network, and whether or not this was a setup done to basically bring all this signal stuff out, we know they have a massive attack on Gabbard. Um, I think Gabbard's huge here. Everybody keeps focusing on Hegseth, but I think they're really going hard after Gabbard. Hegseth, Gabbard, Waltz, and I've always believed that Waltz is kind of the weak link here, but let's go on from there. And so as we look at how Katherine Maher has been central in all of this, it brings everything in the spider web just kind of congeals. Okay, you see that you have the NPR, her movement through the color revolutions into Wikimedia, into the creation of Signal, into being on the board, into Signal being the encrypted app that's pushed into the government usage, which is ridiculous, by Biden, the use of it by the Trump team, knowing, I believe, knowing that all of their communications were being 100% captured, and being reviewed. And I believe this was set up. I believe it was set up. But they're going full bore here with this, okay, on the Democrat side. Impeach, arrest. We have Blumenthal, the stolen valor, Blumenthal, saying this is a espionage act situation. We have to, criminal charges brought up against Hegseth. All this ridiculous stuff for an operation done well with massive total results. But it's very interesting. The only crime that was done here was, of course, by Jeffrey Goldberg, by publishing them in a public space, okay, on the Atlantic. And so it's very interesting, and things are heating up. And so when we look at things like them bringing Stefanik, Elise Stefanik, she was called off of being the United Nations ambassador nominee, where she met a lot of pushback because she's full board Trump's agenda. And so as we're looking at huge, big elections going on in Florida, and going on in Wisconsin right now, and they're looking at this fight that the Democrats are wanting to bring. Elise Stefanik was brought back out of the UN ambassadorship nomination to go back and be one of the biggest fighters for Trump in the Congress, because there's such a slim majority. So very interesting, the recall of her. And we also have all the money stuff. Okay, we have Besant coming out yesterday saying I have full entire empirical evidence that the 7 years of having these massive tariffs on China have not at all raised prices for the American people. I have all the evidence. It's all right here. Trump, puts in the 25% tariffs on all of the car manufacturing, saying you build it here, we will remove the tariffs. And of course, we have, Keir Starmer, not Keir Starmer, Mark Carney out of Canada coming full bore. We're going to try to inflict as much pain on the American people as we can with our own tariffs and all of this, as Trump is getting ready for April 2nd. And of course, what is Liberation Day, as he calls it. But we're seeing very interesting things from the other side of the world with the BRICS, okay? With BRICS, we're seeing that they're still going to meet in the first week in June, but there is, Modi in India is kind of jumping ship. We have in Russia, Putin has asked that they want, as part of the peace plan, to be brought back onto the SWIFT system, which was kind of being taken off the SWIFT system with the Ukraine war. Was kind of what gave birth to BRICS in the first place, as they thought they could tank that. If Biden was going to come in, there was going to be another Democrat win, that they could tank the U.S. dollar as being the reserve currency. But now Putin's asking for Russia to be back on the SWIFT system. We see in Brazil the fight with Lula totally giving away the country to China, where you have Bolsonaro fighting for his life. They're trying to push a massive, very quick trial to put him in jail, where he will be killed and murdered. And we need to fight against, we absolutely need to save Bolsonaro. And I just wish he would go to the U.S. Embassy and go into exile. This is not a winning thing right now for him in Brazil. And of course, Brazil is the most important country really in South America. It has the majority of the rainforest in the Amazon, and it's the most incredible plethora of plants and phytocomponents, all of these stuff that Pfizer was trying to steal. Pfizer was trying to steal when they forced them to sign that agreement over the pandemic crap. That is the world's pharmacy there, as well as just the world's ecological heart. And so the stealing of Brazil is really huge. And they're fighting to give Brazil to China from Lula and the world communists. You have van der Leyen coming out and saying, "Oh, these tariffs, Trump's tariffs are taxes. They harm the people." This is van der Leyen, the head of the EU Commission, and literally if she thinks it's a tax, well, the tariffs against the United States are the highest in the world out of Europe. And so she believes that taxing the American people is amazing. Just go for it. But Besant is like, no, what we've proven here with empirical data out of what we've done with tariffing China is that no, these costs don't come back to Americans. That's not what's happening. And so when we go on from there, we have South Africa defunded by Trump, totally hitting them, taking all of their funding away, and of course creating the pathway for the South Africans to come and seek asylum, being targeted for racial hatred. And so there's just this very interesting thing with China kind of flopping in the wind, but you have the UK coming out and saying, "Oh, there's something coming." The UK is saying the party is on. The party is on through intelligence comms, and that usually means there's a bit of an attack or a false flag or something coming on. And this seems to be happening a lot with the concern around the Indo-Pacific, where we have Hegseth going to Guam yesterday, in the Philippines today, and basically putting in an extra missile system into the Philippines, a second Typhoon missile system to be installed in the Philippines, that being sorted out. And so we're in this huge war, basically, right? And as we look at the, what they're trying to make into Signalgate, what they're trying to make into a Trump impeachment 5.0 with the new let's impeach Hegseth, let's try to call him up on espionage charges, just ridiculous things. They have nothing. They have nothing. And Trump is executing with his team this multi-pronged, worldwide take back of the United States from all of the predators across the world, and from within especially, of the takeover of our country economically, deindustrializing, stealing everything. It's being executed, and it's quite amazing. And so I wanted to bring to your attention today the Katherine Maher aspect, and how these deep state players are so interconnected with all of it, okay? And then embedded into some of the most important media outlets, okay, whether it's NPR, whether it was Wikipedia, and then, of course, the control of Signal, and her being on CFR, Atlantic Council, World Economic Forum, Young Global Leader. They're being routed out, and there's a new day dawning. And so we're going to see, what happens here with Boasberg, of course, getting the lawsuit that was it Mark Elias that put the lawsuit in immediately to do with, I know he did the one against the election integrity executive order, but we have, of course, the lawsuit to do with the discussion on Signal that Joe Biden's auto pen authorized for the intelligence to use across the federal government, that we're seeing Boasberg get that case. Okay, Boasberg, no oath. Okay, no oath that was notarized, and him, of course, the impeachment of him is still necessary. They're working on de-districting in DC, getting removing cases, basically defunding the district judges of DC, the district. And so we'll see what goes on there, but it is a massive, massive fight. And the fight goes on also in Canada. They're having elections now. We thought they might try to snap them faster with Mark Carney. They're kind of fudging the polls there, saying he's doing so great because he's threatening Trump. We, the Canadians, we're going to inflict pain on you. And basically, they're just creating fake polls to produce, to push Carney as the liberal, while we have people like, of course, Maxime Bernier, who I talked about last week, who is fighting to actually work. He wants to work with Trump. He understands that Canada has been screwing, living off the teat of America. Wants to basically get in and have it be that Canada is its own nation, basically working to recreate its industry, stop the migration, do deportations, stop the drugs, stop the fentanyl, stop the China influence. And he's out of the People's Party of Canada, and he's really needing support right now. That the whole People's Party has recently, whereas before they were allowed to engage in debates, now with this new election coming up on April 28th, they're removing the People's Party, kind of like the Reform Party in England, right? With Nigel Farage, who I know is kind of starting to go weirdly centrist, but basically in Canada, we're seeing that they're being hugely censored and hugely taken off of all media, and the same thing that happened here with us in the 2020s and right up through the election. Censored, deplatformed, and the fight is on there. So check them out. I will link it below. The People's Party of Canada. They still need even more candidates to run under their platform, but it's a major election rig going. So they changed the debate rules to exclude the People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier, and that's a huge concern. Absolutely. So we're going to keep on following the news. My main mission here was to basically tell you about Katherine Maher and how, as we've seen, not only is she on the chairman of the board of Signal, that is at the center of SIGNALGATE, okay, that Signal, this random nonprofit created out of CIA government money, now, very hard to trace the funding. I'm sure it gets into donations behind donations behind donations through multiple LLCs, and I could only find Jack Dorsey. We need to find the funding on Signal, but basically, at the end of the day, it is just already super backdoored. They're recording everything. It's a stay-behind network, and that's why Telegram CEO was arrested last fall, because he wouldn't allow that, and they've had to strong arm him, right? And again, it's that NSA data warehouse that I was talking about in my last video as well, where they just can plow through everything. They're just recording it in real time. And was this a setup where they put in, they threw Joel Jeffrey Goldberg in there at the last minute? Was he there all along? Um, it looks less like a hack and more just that they already are collecting everything, and they needed to have him in there. And then you have Alex Wong. Maybe I'll talk about him for a second. I'm sure you've already maybe heard about this with Alex Wong, but his wife was of course um, is he okay? So Alex Wong, he is the deputy to National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Okay, and Laura Loomer has uncovered, research into him that he is the kind of weak link here. That it looks like, and we had Mike Waltz saying, "Oh, Alex Wong, my staff advisor here, my top advisor, created this chain where basically, it looked like it was his number, but it ended up being Jeff Goldberg's number. So was he involved, or was this all done through Signal and through the apparatus within the digital system where they're able to, of course, backdoor everything? But he's married to Candace Chu Wong. Okay, she clerked for SCOTUS for Sotomayor. Okay, and she is also involved with being a key attorney in prosecuting J6ers. Okay, all kinds of crazy stuff. We get Alex Wong being advisor to Mitt Romney back in 2012, very neocon background, and it goes. He worked for Covington and Burlington, which Covington and Burling, who Trump just stripped their national security clearances. So that's all, part of it. This is the behind the scenes war of these people. And it takes many steps to even add a Signal participant to a chat. It's not like you would just do it mistakenly. Okay. To add, Jeff Goldberg, they would have had to go through several steps to add him. It's not like it's just, oh, let's throw a number up onto Signal. No, there's many steps that you have to go through to actually add a number to a chat. And so, hence the backdoor situation. And so, Candace Chu Wong, her father also, of course, worked for Asia Satellite Systems and for 23 years, Asia Satellite Systems that runs all of China's satellite military controls. So it's all looking clearer and clearer, and she is very connected, just as Katherine Maher, and I think that's where the connection comes in through the weak link of Mike Waltz that I've been saying for months. Way back in December, I was like, Mike Waltz for National Security Advisor. I just never felt good about him, and I already disclosed. I mean, I did videos back last year talking about his involvement in actually defrauding the government himself in past military contracts that he had that he didn't fulfill. And, that had to do with providing uniforms in Iraq and different things that Mike Waltz's company was involved with. And something about him just doesn't sit right with me. And there's that. So, but Candace Chu Wong, the wife of Alex Wong, who is deputy for National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, she is hugely connected to Clinton Foundation, the World Economic Forum, and the Council on Foreign Relations, just as Katherine Maher is. Okay, and so that is where I say that those commonalities always point to something. Okay, this seems to be a link that we can't avoid, and so I'm going to leave it there. We have way more to talk about tomorrow. We'll get into a lot that's happening and drill down into more stuff. Of course, Trump's come out and saying that the whole Signal thing is just a witch hunt. They're going to have to find out why Signal is defective, and they've put Elon Musk in charge of the actual looking at the devices. But also, this gets back, way back, way back. And I think it reaches back even into remember that Musk has all the Twitter files, and we've still never really seen them. but it gets into the direct messaging out of Twitter. This gets back into people like Katherine Maher, gets back into people like Mark Warner out of the Senate. Mark, for some reason I can't, but Warner, who basically on Signal, using the app, was the one who worked with Perkins Coie and Fusion GPS to basically get the Steele dossier, okay, purchased through Hillary Clinton's campaign, and so they're all signaling, yeah, we also know about Signal, we also know. So we'll get more into it. We'll jump into the phishing dragnet that I believe is going on, and how it's going to go down, because the lawsuit's there, and then you get discovery, okay? And then you have all of the massive information that's held. So I believe it's a huge card that the Trump administration is holding while they're trying to use this as their big, giant launch point for the Democrat Party to rally around. But I think most Americans could give two shits about it. They don't care. And they basically are applauding everything going on in the Trump administration. So it's just a way to for them to, of course, gin up some support that isn't existing. So anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you glean some more information, especially from the first half of the video about Katherine Maher. She goes way back beyond NPR, which I didn't even know about when I first found out that she was, the head of the board of Signal. Then she was CEO of NPR, now possibly resigned. And basically all of it, her whole history in color revolutions, and why her position that she's been put of, whether it was NDI, National Democrat Institute, the CIA, part of the USAID, all of her roles for the last, at least 15 years have been central in color revolutions all across Africa, and then into the United States in these key roles in Wikipedia, NPR, Signal. These are key. There's a central key situation there. So thanks for watching. If you got something that was added information and you want to support the channel, I appreciate that, and especially monthly, it allows me to do more videos. So there's ways to support below. You are free, and I will see you tomorrow.